Welcome to the lecture on coroutine versus update loop. So for timer based functionality, we can easily implement that using a coroutine. And the same functionality could be also implemented by an update loop. But the reason why we use a coroutine instead of an update loop is that first, it makes code clear. So the code is much clearly written. Second is code is easier to understand. Third is that it removes unnecessary statements. And the fourth is that code doesn't run unnecessarily. Now let us go through an example to understand this concept. Let us now make a C# script and call the script as using coroutine. Make an empty game object and call this as using coroutine. And let us attach the script to this game object. Open the script. And let us write some code. So first we're going to write timer 1 whose value is 5. Next timer 2 whose value is again 5, and timer 3 whose value is again 5. So let's also write a coroutine function, and the coroutine function has enumerator return type, and the name of coroutine function is test coroutine. In this function let us write yield return statement for seconds timer 1 control L v and change its value to timer 2 and timer 3, and after each timer we are going to print a statement. So debug.log first, second, debug.log second, and then debug.log third. And to start this coroutine we are going to use the start method. In the start method, that is called a start coroutine function, in which we are going to pass this coroutine as a parameter. So let us return to the Unity editor and run the scene. After 5 seconds first is printed, then after another 5 seconds second is printed, and then after another 5 seconds third is printed. Let us now disable the using coroutine game object and create another C# script and call this as using update. Make an empty game object and call it as using update. Attach the script to this game object, and now we are going to implement the previous functionality, and you are going to observe how complicated it gets. So let us open the script. So here we are going to first declare 3 timer variables. That is, first is timer 1 equals to 5, next timer 2 equals to 5, and next timer 3 equals to 5. After that we are going to declare another variable which is going to keep the amount of time elapsed. So timer 1 amount, private float, timer 2 amount to keep how much time for timer 2 has elapsed, and timer 3 to keep track of how much time for timer 3 has elapsed. So let us now move to the update method. Void update, and here we are going to increment the timer 1 amount by time.delta time, which is time taken every frame update. And if timer 1 amount is greater than timer 1, only then we are going to print debug.lot first, and then we are going to start the timer 2. Timer 2 amount plus equals to time.delta time, and if timer 2 amount is greater than timer 2, in this case we are going to print second, and start the timer 3. Timer 3 amount plus equals to time.delta time, and if timer 3 amount is greater than timer 3, then we are going to print third on the console. But the problem here is that this first, second and third are going to continuously print on the console, and we want them to print only once. So we are going to declare 3 boolean variables: private bool timer 1 printed, private bool timer 2 printed, and private bool timer 3 printed. All these are initially set to false, so we are going to print this only once, for which we are going to use if timer 1 printed equals to false, then we are going to print first on the console and set the value of timer 1 printed to true. Similarly, for the second timer, if timer 2 printed equals to false, only in this case we are going to print the second on the console, and timer 2 printed equals to true. And for the third timer, if timer 3 printed equals to false, only in this case we are going to print this statement, timer 3 printed is to true, so that it cannot be repeated again. So all these boolean variables only allow this to be printed only once. So let us now move back to the Unity editor and observe the output. Play the scene and open the console window. You can see after 5 seconds first is printed, then second is printed, and then third is printed. Okay, let us now keep both the codes side by side and observe why coroutine is better than the update loop. So in the coroutine one, you can see that first of all the amount of variables we have used is far less. We have only used 3 variables, and in the case of update loop we have used 9 variables. Second point is that the code in the coroutine has much less if statements, and the code in the update method has lot of if statements. And the third point is that the code in the coroutine runs only once. After that it does not run. But with the update method, the code runs continuously. Even after we have printed all the 3 values, still we are checking the if statements. And fourth is that the code in the coroutine is much easier to understand, and the code in the update loop is much difficult to understand and debug. So I hope you are able to understand why coroutines are better than an update loop, and we will meet again in future videos.